June 19th, 2024. Ah, Juneteenth. Well, at any rate, I guess we can thank Senator Langford for that. And also, of course, for that horrible um, immigration bill that he negotiated with the Democrats. Gee, not too swift sometimes. But at any rate, fortunately that died, and now we have, of course, well, I briefly mentioned, it does, as I said in my previous thing, it doesn't look like that anything has come of the Biden executive order in any successful way. But I guess we'll get to some other issues and more timely right now. And the latest thing apparently is the Democrats' cheap fake push. Given all the video evidence of Biden's failings, and of course the article of all the people that point out behind the scenes, yes, he really is. Um, they have they've now decided that they're going to call them cheap fakes. Now I don't know, what does that mean? That means it didn't cost much to produce them. Well, they don't want to call them deep fakes, where they use AI digital processing techniques to produce something where somebody says something they really never said, something that's completely created but looks realistic just to watch it. So they're calling it a cheap fake, but I guess it didn't cost much money. I don't know. But what's fake about it? It really happened. Well, they're trying to suggest that maybe some of them may lack context. And that probably is true. Probably some of them do. Maybe, for instance, the one over in Europe with the Italian prime minister, it is possible he really was legitimately looking at something in another direction when then something else popped up and she said, hey, you ought to see this too. And maybe it doesn't mean a whole lot in that case, or maybe it does. But the point is, it isn't one instance. If it was just one or two instances, I think we just assume it doesn't mean much. There's all kind of instances. It goes on and on and on. And they're all obviously not all out of context. I mean, when the Easter Bunny character has to tell them where to go, or I mean, and of course the latest thing with Barack Obama, leading them off the stage, which some people, and particularly Bongino, for instance, thinks it was a deliberate attempt to undercut Biden and help with this plan to get that allegedly the Democrat insiders have to get him off the ticket, which might be true. I'm but and of course that's an interesting question. Do the Republicans want him off the ticket? But we'll get into that in a little bit. But that is that's the situation on that. I think this is all part of the ongoing Democrat lie campaign. I mean, these people are the biggest liars I've ever seen. I mean, they assume that people won't even believe their eyes. They just believe what the Democrat Party says, I guess. It's sort of I guess they've decided, what was it that Elon Musk said, that the 1984 by Orwell was supposed to be a warning, not a guide, or something to that effect. I mean, that's kind of the way it is. And well, anyhow, so I guess we're going to be subjected to more of that. And of course, we're coming up on the big presidential debate on I guess next Thursday, so the 27th. So by the way, if you like these videos, please give me a like. It helps out with the algorithm. We're always looking for more subscriptions. And of course, those that are on Rumble rather than YouTube, if you don't want to join YouTube and you happen to be on Rumble and you run across these on my social media, links, you can, of course, subscribe to me there. Either way. So, but so that's kind of the situation we're in here as we approach this debate. And of course, I've previously argued I think the debate is a big mistake, a potential lose-lose for Trump. The reason is two possibilities that are clearly likely. One, Trump wins the debate, and it helps with the Democrats' plan to get Biden off the ticket and bring in somebody who would be more effective. Because just about any major person they would bring in would be more effective, other than, well, if it was Kamala Harris, that would be a problem. And there is a question of how do you deal with the Kamala Harris problem. I guess it's certainly possible you just bring in somebody else at the top of the ticket and let her run as vice president. There is discussions that maybe they'll give her an alternative. If they could convince Sotomayor to resign from the Supreme Court, they could appoint her to that. E. Or, but so far Sotomayor says, what do you mean? I'm not dead yet. Why do I need to resign from the Supreme Court? I can last another 4 or 5 years. So that may not happen. And then you have the possibility that she might be able to run for governor of California, I guess, after Newsom's term is up. I mean, I guess if they can take Newsom, I guess they could take Kamala Harris. I mean, whatever. But hopefully these people would eventually get some sense out there, but maybe not. So anyhow, that's kind of in play. But my point is, then the other possibility is that Trump loses the debate, which that's not good. I mean, Trump losing to Biden, that don't sound too good. And we'll have to see, how all this plays out. Meanwhile, Trump's still got to deal with his 34 convictions, and that's going to be a bit of a technical legal problem, because you got the court system. Once anybody gets caught up in this court system, it is a mess. And in theory, the prosecutors only go after the people that are guilty. So the fact that everybody really kind of gets screwed over by the machinery there is not that bad. And remember that most of the time people are plea bargained to lower charges than what they really deserve anyhow. That's for the guilty. But if you're innocent and get pulled into the system, that's a whole different thing. Because remember, you're supposed to plead guilty and be contrite. Otherwise, things get worse for you. So if you're really innocent and you're trying to defend yourself, then you're a bad guy. So you need to have an even worse sentence, So that's one of the things he has to look for, because of this sham. I would call it certainly a show trial. I mean, about as decent as what you get in Russia if you're an American who's accused of some kind of espionage because they need somebody to trade for somebody that we're holding for some crime they've committed in the West, get in touch with that China. I mean, this was really, he's still under a gag order, so he can't criticize the jury or what is it, all this stuff. They still upheld the gag order even though the trial's over. This is all legal warfare against him. But the problem is, there's a lot of people out there who are naive and will probably fall for it, allegedly. I don't know if that's really going to play out or not. I understand that Biden's next campaign is a $50 million Trump was a convicted felon campaign. So that's something we'll have to look forward to here, along with in a sense, that isn't a lie like everything else they say is, but it is deceptive in that the conviction is invalid. Eventually, as a legal process would ultimately play itself out down the road, I think it will be overturned. But that won't be before the election. And right now, he can't even appeal it until the sentence is passed, I think, on July the 11th. Well, the convention, I think, is the 14th or something like that. So, in other words, right before the convention, he'll get sentenced to something. And the question is, will he be left out on bail pending the appeal? Or will this crazy judge decide to put him in prison immediately? Interesting question. Normally I would think he'd be left out on bail, but this judge is a wacko, so we don't know what he's going to do. And in a really weird, twisted sense, it actually might be to Trump's advantage with the go to jail option. Although we kind of hope that don't happen. But what I'm saying is, if it did happen, I think that's the one thing that might expedite a Supreme Court special appeal type thing. I forget is it a habeas corpus or whatever. At any rate, there's a special, I'm not a lawyer, but there's a special kind of appeal that's rarely used, rarely heard, but can be granted. And it has been historically, but very rarely. And the question is, the Supreme Court probably doesn't really want to take another Trump case right now. After all, they've got the immunity case. And there's another case. Fortunately, the Trump case is such, but it's related to the January 6th people about this. I think it's called the Enron law, that they've somehow twisted to turn into this thing that they're using against the January 6th people. So that's the Supreme Court's hearing that one for sure, and probably will rule in favor of the defendants. I think. I'm thinking they will, and whether that's why I hear the thing, but there's always a possibility of the Supreme Court, I guess, that 4 people insisted on hearing it, even though they're going to lose. But usually, I think when the sense is you're going to win, you're going to lose, you just don't ask to hear it, right? Although sometimes during the arguments and all the amicus briefs and all that stuff, people change their mind. There was there have been some major cases historically. I remember which one it was where that actually happened. Where I think it was that I believe Roberts changed his mind on something major. It slips my mind exactly what it was. I didn't prepare to talk about that, but it is, these things have happened, so we don't know for sure until they issue their opinion. And then, of course, the presidential immunity case, which we've talked about before, that's coming up, and we don't know what they're going to do with it. I tend to think they'll do something somewhat favorable to Trump, only because otherwise, why hear the case when the appellate court pretty well wrote a good opinion for the other side of the thing. So if you're on the other side of the issue, they didn't have to hear it. If you're, again, that could be the 4 people insisting against the 5 that don't agree. Now, that is a possibility. So anyhow, so that gives you an idea of kind of what's in play. But that's coming up, but I'm just saying that if they did something that radical, I think then the Supreme Court probably would be willing to hear it on an expedited basis, and I think there's a clear Sixth Amendment case against the conviction based on the fact that the jury wasn't. In other words, the jury did not have to decide which of 3 felony crimes that he'd also committed. It could be any of the 3, and they never specified it. And I believe that is unconstitutional, as I understand it. So that's a perfect, easy decision to shoot it down. There's a bunch of other things that are more, did various things prejudice the case, the fact that certain witnesses weren't allowed to testify, and all that, all those kind of things. And the whole issue of mixing up state and federal cases, and look, let's face it, these judges can come up with whatever they want to decide any way they want to. That's my general opinion on these judges. They're very bright people, and they have very bright clerks with them, and they can come up with things I couldn't even imagine. So they can do what they want to do. The question is, do they want to do? And so that's in play. We're waiting these Supreme Court decisions. My favorite on the immunity case is just don't decide. Just put it off to after November the 5th, and then they can decide something rather mealy-mouthed at that point, which will be totally irrelevant at that point. But as it is, I think that the Democrat lie machine is in full force. We'll see how damaging this all is. I know somebody came out with a Mars poll that said something or other, but again, I don't necessarily trust Mars polls that much. And some polls I think are somewhat credible, and some of them not as much. And you got to be careful of which poll you're listening to and what you're looking at. I'm always suspicious of polls where you bring out a specific issue and you ask, is this going to more likely to drive you in one direction or the other? What I'm more interested in is the ultimate question: how are you going to really vote? I think that's the one that probably is more important. I mean, I've seen things that, so this or that issue is really the biggest issue, but it's a way to get to the internals. But a lot of times it's almost a question of, okay, yeah, that's the issue, but which side are you on? The gun issue, for instance, that is an issue. Is that an important issue? And what percent think it's an issue they'll vote on? But which way are they going to vote? I mean, what do they want to restrict guns? They want to make them available. In other words, which side of the issue is often not discussed. They just say, is it an important issue? Yeah, but maybe it's a 50-50 issue, or maybe it's a 55-45 issue, and so it ain't going to really be a driver unless it's extremely close. That gives you an example of that kind of thing. But anyhow, so that's kind of where we are. The thing now is cheap fake, or I call it the cheap Democrat lie. I mean, that's what they're really all about. They're the most deceptive people out there. And this ongoing thing that Trump is going to be this dictator. I mean, a Republican can't be a dictator for a simple reason. The administrative state is totally chock full of Democrats. What, about 90% Democrats? I mean, or whatever. There's no way that's going to happen. Now, a Democrat, I think, could become a dictator because, again, they tend to follow the Democrat. And look at, I mean, I like this latest thing he's doing on this amnesty bill. This the amnesty he's doing, is that even constitutional? Does he have the legal authority to make those decisions? I don't know. That I haven't heard anybody even address the subject one way or the other. Um, I would think that it should be challenged in court by if you can find somebody that has standing to bring the case. So, that we'll see what happens on that, or whether it really is legal. If you can just decide if he can do that, can he just give amnesty to every illegal alien in the country? And because I would presume that hasn't been done by Democrats in the past, then I would think this would also be wrong. But I don't know. Are the rules about that purely administrative, or are they legal or legislative? That's the question. So anyway, so that's about that for now. I just thought, address this latest little brouhaha they're putting up, and we'll see how the debate is coming up and how it goes. Of course, Biden will be rested, prepared, and will be given an adequate stimulant to get him up for the debate. I mean, he may be a little bit on the angry side. Whatever stimulant they're giving him apparently makes him a little bit hopped up and a little bit on the angry side. So, but the debate otherwise is designed, tailored to give him every advantage they can think of. The question is, will that be enough? Of course, then again, I would point out that Trump may be a lot of things, but he's not the greatest debater in history either, really. I mean, he beats all Republicans in debates because all he has to do is insult the Republican, and the Republican Party is so upset that their people haven't delivered the goods for them like they'd like that they just buy into that. But the independent voter and the Democrat voter don't really buy into that. So, but he is the best candidate. He's certainly a lot better than Biden in office. So, anyway, I just thought I'll be wrapping this up for now, but we'll see how the debate goes. I don't see any reason to have one before the conventions are over myself, because I like to lock him into having Biden as a candidate and then have him completely melt down in the campaign and end up us actually winning good big time. Anyway, so as always, I'll be posting this on YouTube and Rumble. The addresses of my social media accounts are in the description below. All for now.